Good afternoon. We're here on the Morehouse College campus for Homecoming 2024. And what we're doing today is doing a historical legacy of the Morehouse NROTC unit. You see White Hall in the background. But I'm Dr. Ovell Hamilton, chair of the History and Africana Studies Department. Before I was chair, I was part of this great unit here. I graduated in 1993 from this unit. And today we have some legacy leaders coming back to share our history of this great ROTC unit that we want to keep for our archives. And so today we'll start first with General Burton.
Hey, good afternoon. Brigadier General Dave Burton, United States Marine Corps, retired, Morehouse College class of 1988. So my affiliation with the NROTC unit started when I saw midshipmen on the yard actually drilling. It was the 1985 time frame, and I approached the leadership and talked to them about what it would what it would take to join the organization. One of the individuals that I spoke with was Commander Espy, and Master Chief Hutchinson, who was retired at the time. They were both very inviting, looking to recruit qualified people, but what I really, the feeling that I really got when I started to meet some of the other midshipmen in the unit, I really perceived it as a family. It had the same feel as a fraternity or a sorority, where there was some exclusivity, in being a member of the organization. Some of the great things, that I learned from the unit, leadership, sportsmanship, teamwork, hard work, and some of the things that we learned, translated directly into, when I went on active duty in the Marine Corps. And I think the baseline that I received at the unit here, were crucial to the success that I had in my career.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, I'm Antonio Smith. I'm the class of 1988. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, United States Marine Corps. So I came to the unit again in 1984. I came directly from a high school here in Atlanta. Master Chief Hutchinson and Lieutenant Commander Espy, they were the ones that recruited me. It was a very exciting time. And so I can remember coming out here for a visit, an orientation trip, and getting an introduction to a few students that were on the campus at that time. And to be honest with you, on that orientation trip, we were actually located at Morris Brown College. So the unit was, a few individuals at Morris Brown, maybe a lieutenant, and it was a OIC, but basically a crosstown unit from Georgia Tech. So after, we received an orientation, later that fall came out here and just went to an informed type session, an orientation session up at Dobbins Air Force, Naval Air Station, Atlanta, just to give us some of the basic military skills that we needed, left, right, face, nothing really complicated. But as General Burton said, when I arrived here at the unit, it really felt like a family, and we were all focused on an education. We were all focused on being in the military. We really had a very high level of esprit de corps and motivation starting out. Lieutenant Commander Espy and Master Chief Hutchinson, they were great as it pertained to recruiting. I could literally see the unit growing around us with individuals and with people. We did some very, exciting things, some significant things that first year as far as, traveling and competing in drill events. I can remember us also traveling to Louisiana to the Mardi Gras. So they were, the unit was a really engaging time for us as far as some legacy and the impact. I really remember, and something that stood out to say that we're always trying to be the best NROTC unit in the country, was my first time seeing the logo, stand the test, join the best. Whoever came up with it, that was magnificent, because you felt that in your heart. You felt like every day I had to get better. There were things that I couldn't do well when I first got here, like others, but we were able to help each other, whether that was studying, whether that was physical training, even transportation, whatever the case might be. So just a great environment and a great time. Again, I graduated from Clark College at the time. It wasn't Clark Atlanta University, so it was Clark College. So for me, I probably spent most of my time on Morehouse's campus because, again, this was the family. We identified with the Marine Corps very early on, and so we made that bond as Marines within the unit. And so we really took care of each other, just like brothers and sisters. And I have a lot more to tell you, but I think I better let it keep flowing.
All right, very good, very good. Simonia Ridley-Blassingame, Spelman College class of 1992, retired Navy captain. Spent 25 years on active duty. When I joined this unit as a 2-year scholarship student, right? So my first 2 years at Spelman, had no knowledge about military culture. One of my resident assistants, however, was Midshipman Shirley Green, icon of the unit, and I used to laugh at her in her bell bottoms and her uniforms every day, like, why are you wearing that? Lord have mercy, right? So I came across the unit through Shirley, certainly, but I remember walking across campus, and I think it was an event like a coronation or Miss ROTC pageant or something, and then the guys were all out. I'm sure there were girls, but I saw the guys in their whites out on the parade field, and it was sort of like, hey, what's we got going on over here? And we will always talk about Master Chief Hutchinson in that context. I remember coming up to Master Chief, but the very first questions he asked me was like, when I said I was interested in ROTC, he said, what's your SAT score? What's your major? And what's your GPA? And once I check, we were able to move to the next conversation, which is him saying, come by my office on Monday. Lieutenant Stevens was one of the lieutenants. He basically helped me do the application and said, go get me 3 letters of recommendation. And I was off to the races. And the thing that's so interesting to me about my time, even though I only spent 2 years in the unit, my closest friends came from the unit. And so it's not that I didn't have friends and sisterhood and brotherhood before, I just don't remember them as much. And so when I come back from homecoming, it's always more or less to see my brothers and sisters from the unit. And if it weren't for them, I don't know if I would feel like I even went to the school sometimes, right? So the unit was really, really important. I have pictures, even thinking about this, I went back yesterday and pulled out some old photos because I love to take pictures. So I'm capturing it. It was my idea of social media before social media, but just reflecting back on the friendships that we have, to watch our children and even, come back to the unit in some cases, or come back to these campuses and sort of reliving that experience with them is amazing. It was and is still a family, even if you don't see people except once a year or ever. If you run across somebody who said they went to the AUC, but specifically this unit, say less. What you need, how can I help you, particularly on active duty. Just ran into a whole host of students, at my time, even at the Naval Postgraduate School, and it was always a say less. You went to Morehouse NROTC. I already know that even if you're doing whatever you're doing and it's hard, I know you got the stuff to make it, because if you can make it here in Atlanta with all we got going on and that the city has to offer, add on ROTC on top of that, and still graduate, like what? Like you stand and test, join the best, baby. You can do that right here for sure. So just great to be back always, and happy to share some of the photos and videos, with the team, just so that we can document this amazing history.
Thomas McNeil, Commander, United States Navy, currently active duty, 19 years in. I was a 2005 graduate of Morehouse College, political science major. Definitely enjoyed the unit. Like, it was a hugely enriching experience. There was a lot of talk about Master Chief Hutchinson. He was definitely a shepherd to most of the midshipmen before and after joining the unit, and a little bit even after commissioning. So huge. It's definitely good to be back. I'm currently permanent staff as the deputy commander, responsible for recruitment, retention, as well as kind of building relationships inside, outside the school, and some of those other aspects as far as like the longevity of the unit. So it's good to see kind of like the growth of some of the midshipmen, the growth of the unit thus far, and just some really exciting things that the unit's doing. Like seeing jet pilots come out of the program in recent years is absolutely amazing. Seeing some other folks kind of progress in some of their careers in amazing ways has been huge. And I just like to kind of continue to nurture that as much as possible, being somewhat of a shepherd as far as like Master Chief was. I definitely like to try. So it's been huge, kind of coming back and reminiscing a little bit on some of those old times. They were tough, they were long days. I think the biggest thing that I've got out of that was resilience. And that's hopefully something that I'd like to kind of nurture and build out in some of the students as well. It's just kind of like, there's resilience in what you go through here. Kind of get into the fleet, there's definitely some use to that. Some aspects of where that can definitely come in handy as far as bouncing back from pitfalls, setbacks, or whatever may come their way. And then it's like just resilience and whatever they end up doing for themselves personally, challenges that they want to put themselves through, and just making sure that they have that mindset to kind of progress, and whatever they want to do.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for that enlightening conversation. I guess on my end, I'll tell my story. Actually, I was going to Memphis State. I was in the boost program, San Diego. I was on my way to Memphis State because I want to be home near my family in Arkansas. And so I met this Master Chief. Hey, boy, you need to come on down here to Atlanta. I said, Atlanta? And the only thing I heard about Atlanta was the child murders. I don't know if y'all remember that.
Okay,
So I did not want to go to Atlanta. And so Master Chief told me about Morehouse College, and he said, it's an all-male black male. I never heard of that college before. Let me try this out. And so found my way here to Atlanta. Found my way, like I said, just like a family. We were all together. I was an RA in Robert Hall for, I think, 4 years. And like I say, we all treat each other as a family. I found resilience. I found brothers I can depend upon, sisters I can depend upon. They were my Spelman sisters. And it was just, like I say, it was just like a spirit that was here of unity, of just perseverance, just a whole kind of thing you can just grab onto that I wouldn't have got if I went to another college. I just wouldn't have got that. And so I just thank God that that was probably the greatest decision I ever made in my life, and coming to Atlanta and experiencing that. And that's what I need. I need that background on my culture, as I'm a history major now. But like I say, we're doing this legacy video here. So all that background, all that culture, it strengthened me to go on and then to pass it on down to my kids and also my family and things like that. So the very thing about this unit is, like say, it's priceless. The things that we've done, the things that we achieved is priceless. I'm glad that we're able to categorize this and do a chronology of this, because we can pass it down to other generations. And so I'm going to ask you all, what was your most memorable moment here being a part of this great unit?
When I joined the unit, as what we call a college program, basically I'm a student here at Morehouse. I walk in and affiliate.
Yes.
I wasn't at the time a citizen of the United States.
Oh.
I was actually born in the West Indies, and I was still a Jamaican citizen. So Master Chief Hutchinson, Commander Espy, they walked me through the process. Okay, you need to go back home. I was living in Washington, D.C., and apply for and get your citizenship before we can, can apply, for a scholarship. So they took the time to do that when it wasn't necessarily in their interest to do that, for something that is beneficial for me. So that initial contact and the just the interest that they had in one particular student who they didn't necessarily need to do that because they had to go above and beyond to recruit me in. But they took the time to do it. So it showed me, that there's a personal level of interest and care that you just didn't find in other places. And it made me want to be a part of the organization and also to be able to give back to it.
And I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you just said there. That's, I mean, yeah, wow. It's wow.
So I mentioned that I was a 2-year walk-in, student. So the unit didn't really have a lot of time to get to know me, right, before I went. All they knew is that I said I was interested. So at that time, what they would do is send you off to Newport, Rhode Island, to this thing called the Naval Science Institute, to basically give you your 2 years of ROTC in a couple of weeks during the summer before your junior year. And so I went to this experience not knowing much about the Navy, so much so I was on the tennis team over at Spelman. I was going to bring my tennis racket with me in case I could, get in some tennis. Like, no, this is boot camp, baby. It was officer boot camp light. It was run by the gunnery sergeants. And so when I got there, it was really shocking experience. But one of the things that was interesting, we're on our HBCU campus. I grew up in Georgia. Racism in and of itself isn't new to me, and it could be part of the culture, right? In the military as well, because it's a slice of society, right? People come from wherever they come from. So anyway, I went to this experience and I had to go see the commanding officer of the program, who was also another PNS. And he wanted me, there were only 2 black females there, I should say that. She was a student at Prairie View, still my best friend today. Our sons are roommates together at Fisk University right now. But there were no other black women in this program. So I had to go see the PNS and explain to him why I wanted to be in the Navy. I didn't have the language or the words for it, but I remember him calling my PNS of the Morehouse unit, Captain Fisher, on the phone and had him on speakerphone. I'm in the office. I'm terrified. I don't know what is happening. And he asked him, why did he send me there? And did he really think I was going to be fit for naval service? They had not seen anybody that looked like me. And Captain Fisher said out loud, I sent her to you because she's qualified. And when she finishes your program, you will send her back to me, and then hung up the phone. And I remember coming back to the unit, going to see him, thinking he was going to, I don't know, do something, say something to me. I was in some type of trouble. He was like, that's over and done with. Get on and do what you need to do. And so this idea, though, remember, this man had not spent very much time with me. All he knew was I was a student at Spelman College. I qualified. I had an ROTC scholarship, and I was going to be part of his unit. And it was enough for him to fight for me and defend me. And so that's what the unit was like for me. The people here, the instructors, would fight for us, even if it didn't seem right. I was telling my brothers a story earlier where when I had taken calculus, one of my calculus instructors was saying, don't take any more math until you find the right instructor, somebody who believes in you and will pour in you and say, oh yeah, you could take more calculus. As a matter of fact, you need to take calculus for majors and you need to take physics for majors for this ROTC scholarship. So ma'am, you will be taking calculus again, right, to eventually end up teaching math at the Naval Postgraduate School, right? The things that people say about you or see in you is very different. They saw something different in us. And even if I don't even know if they, as a current deputy commander, I don't even know if you always believe it every time, but y'all say it anyway. And it means the world to these kids. And then you could take that with you. So I mentioned about my friend when I was commissioned, then there were probably 98 black female ensigns in the entire United States Navy when I was commissioned. And I could name probably 50 of them because they were affiliated with an HBCU somewhere. So I had met some. I was on the sailing team and we had gone to FAMU for a sailing regatta. I had my best friend over in Prairie View. So by the time you start doing 6 degrees of separation, I could probably name 50 of the 98 just through my affiliation with the HBCU community, because we were at Hampton, we were at Norfolk State, we were at Prairie View, we were at Savannah State, we were at Morehouse, right? So it's that kind of thing that means the most to me. And then even to retire after 25 years and have Commander Espy and Captain Fisher in the audience at my retirement ceremony. Like, they weren't just with you at the beginning, they were with you the whole way. So.
And I think, from my standpoint, when I have a lot of memorable moments, this was really a great time of my life. But one thing, I'll give a couple quick ones. One that stands out was when we became an independent unit, Morehouse College NROTC in 1987. I was here during that time period, and prior to then, we were always a satellite crosstown unit to Georgia Tech. But during this time period, the Navy said, okay, we're going to stand up and put an 06, which was Captain Fisher, at the unit. Lieutenant Commander Espy and Master Chief Hutchinson had done such a great job with building the unit. We probably were 125 at least strong. So we had a really large unit at that particular time. So, you know, we had already started to prove, even though this kind of group over on this end, we were sort of forerunners, but we had already started to prove, you know, the value of the unit. So it became an independent unit in 1987. So there were probably about 6 years where it was an independent unit, like folks like me actually graduated from the Morehouse College NROTC that wasn't associated with Georgia Tech. And then in the early 90s, 93, 94, it reverted back to Georgia Tech as a crosstown unit. So that's one memorable event for the unit to become an independent unit. Then I look back and I just remember the fun I had during summer cruises. You know, we got an opportunity, while I was a midshipman, I had an opportunity to fly in an A6. I had an opportunity to go on a submarine. We trained with the Marines, we trained with the SEALs. So all of those things, being from Atlanta, I'd never gone and been involved in anything where you're jumping in rivers and they're retrieving you from fast boats. And you know, I was just blown away when I got an A6 ride in Jacksonville, Florida. I was like, you know, hey, flying around in a jet. So I could give you more, but those are some that just come to mind.
I definitely have quite a few memorable moments. Just overall, the experience was pretty enriching. But as I mentioned, you know, class of 2005, so you know, drill and PT were some of those core aspects of what we were doing throughout the entire ROTC experience, and you know, that stands out. But particularly one drill, freshman year, 2001, was 9/11. So we go from drill to the unit, and there are the Twin Towers on TV. And so that was definitely impactful for like, what I was going to do and like what I kind of got myself into, and just kind of preparing, you know, mentally and morally and emotionally just on, you know, what's ahead of me. That's, I didn't really think about it like as deeply then as I have over the last, you know, 23 years since 9/11. But one of the key pieces, right? Like if you start thinking about, you know, service and any aspect of military service and finding your why, that was huge in like understanding and finding my why of what I was actually doing in ROTC. And that was huge as a freshman, just 3-4 weeks into the semester.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I say, great moments, great times. Like I say, it's something we will always cherish. We will never forget. And in that note, this is one last question. What would you say, I guess say to the young midshipmen that are growing up now, what would be your most valuable advice to them now? What would you say to them now to encourage them to keep on this path, to encourage them to keep doing what they're doing, and encourage them to become great leaders? What would you say to them?
Yeah, you know, I've heard a couple of my peers and panel members talk about resiliency, you know, as part of your makeup, right? And I think that was one of the main lessons that I learned, you know, through my experiences here, and then throughout my career. You know, I think, you know, what I would tell them is that, hey, you're going to fail sometimes, right? And failure or not reaching a level that you would had aspired to, that's part of the process, right? So if you do experience failure, or when you experience failure, you know, in your time, that it is very important to keep going, you know, because I've seen, you know, folks in my experience who they fail at something and they give up. And it has just negative connotations for, you know, not necessarily the rest of their lives, but for significant parts of their lives. You know, so focus on the being resilient and knowing that it's not going to work out the way that you want to all the time, but you can keep going. And if you keep going, you can achieve success. So that would be my advice.
Great answer.
Yep. And what I would tell midshipmen, preparation gives you confidence. And so you have to take the time on your own often to prepare, whether that's hitting the swimming pool, whether that's going to a study session. That preparation is just so important that you need that in order to have confidence. And then once you have confidence, don't lose that confidence. There will be situations when you get into the operating forces where people will challenge your manhood and your womanhood, and if you don't have confidence, if you can't stand up to those type of situations and then you lose your confidence, you can become defeated. So I would tell a midshipman more than anything, prepare yourself, you're constantly preparing, get the confidence, and then once you bring yourself up to a certain level, always know that you have to compete at the highest level. Every time you go out, every time you suit up to do your job, you're bringing your A game. You don't show up the B game, C game. You can go out there and you can compete regardless of the MOS, because it's going to always be challenging. You can be an infantry officer, you can be an aviator, you can be a surface warfare officer. Doesn't matter what MOS you go to, you've got to bring your A game. You have to be ready to fight and know what you're doing. Technically and tactically proficient, you're leading people out there. You have the lives of people under your control. That's a tremendous responsibility. When I was 21 years old, I had a platoon of 42 Marines. That's a tremendous amount of responsibility. So you have to know what you're doing and you have to take it seriously. You can have fun. So I go back: preparation, confidence, leadership, engage, and always bring your A game. Never get caught not playing your A game.
Being ready, gotta stay ready. I think for me, I would say if you can't find your tribe, create your tribe. So for me as a black female, there were often spaces where I was never, there was never anybody that looked like me. In the wardroom, on an aircraft carrier, I'm a department head. There were no other blacks on the wall. There were no other women on the wall. It was me. And so just understanding that even as I walked through the space, I would always maybe be by myself, but I could find tribes of community. My Liberty buddies were 2 white males, right, who had similar thought patterns as me and did not think it was strange that we could hang out together. I have also affiliated myself with an organization like the National Naval Officers Association so that I could sort of rebuild that sense of community in places maybe where I didn't have it in my office. You could still have that. You just may have to work a little harder and look for it. And a lot of those opportunities also came about because of my willingness and wantingness to serve, do community service, line up with people to help tutor kids, even while I needed tutoring, right, in math. Like whatever got you through the unit, if you had to go to tutoring to get through calculus, well, guess what? As a high school student who needs what you know, and just getting outside of yourself and your problem set sometimes will just make you feel better, right? It's just not always about you. You are going to have some tough days and some tough challenges, but they will pass, I promise you. And the stuff that you have inside of you, knowing who you are and how you were made, what your gifts are, what your talents are, if you're an extrovert, do something extroverted. If you're an introvert, start a book club. Like whatever it is, you can do it. You can be yourself, right, and still survive in this environment. I'm living proof of that. So know that you have a community here who's still rooting for you, and we want you to succeed. And you can do this.
I think one thing that I've learned kind of during my time in the fleet is just anchoring in on, 1, your environment, and 2, just professionalism. So there's, 3 kind of key aspects of being in a squadron, right? There's just your flying job, being good at that, your ground job, and whatever that might be, being good at that, and just kind of like having that community as well. So just decent interactions with the rest of the squadron mates, or just being a good guy. And what that kind of sums up to is, talent, personality, and passion. I think some of those key aspects are absolutely critical no matter where you are. You have to be talented in a particular skill set for organization. And if you're not, find ways to kind of boost that up. Study hard, get into groups where you can kind of build on each other's knowledge. And that kind of works with the other aspect of personality, just kind of interacting and uplifting others, and just finding people who can potentially uplift you if you have those missteps and mistakes that happen throughout your career. And then if all else fails, just definitely having the passion to kind of stick through it all, kind of building up that resilience day in and day out.
Yeah, and I'm glad y'all mentioned resilience, General Burton and Commander, because that's what I want to instill in the kids too, resilience. And going on a historical moment, our resilience goes back. I want to tell them about the Rhode Island Regiment and the Revolutionary War, the 54th Massachusetts in the Civil War. Sergeant Corporal Henry Johnson, who fought off 30 Germans with a knife in World War I. The 761st Tank Battalion in World War II. That's our resilience, that's our legacy. And I want to instill that into those young people to know that you came from a long line of soldiers, sailors, as well. They fought with Commodore Perry in the War of 1812. Yes. Dory Miller in 1941 at Pearl Harbor. Yeah. You come from that long line of resilience. Yes. We've been in every skirmish that the U.S. has ever had. So that resilience is key and mandatory. Yep. So that's what we want to instill, like we're still in here. That's what we want to instill, that resilience into our midshipmen as well. So again, any other comments? Thank you all for...
If I can just, tie into what you said, because I think that is so significant to remember where we come from and the shoulders that we stand on. And I don't think a lot of people even know this, but the very first officer that ever served in the military was a graduate of Atlanta University, Clark Atlanta University. It was Henry O. Flipper, 1869.
Buffalo soldiers.
Yep, he went up to West Point. He goes out and he serves in the military. He's the first. At West Point, they don't even talk to him. Totally isolated. He then goes and serves in the military. He goes out west. Someone trumps up charges on him about some disbursement funding. And therefore, you could see the racism and the difficulties that he had. But he still persevered. Because of what he did, we stand here now. He went through so much. I can't imagine going to any environment and no one talks to me for years. That type of isolation, I don't understand that. So I'm so glad you brought up our history, because we stand on the shoulders of those individuals. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I retired a couple of months ago, and I was really happy to see how many members from the Naval NROTC unit from over the years, that showed up at my retirement ceremony. It was by far the largest contingent. And I had put together a program, that kind of took me through my career, but there was a section of it that talked about standing on the shoulders of giants. Talking about Montford Point Marines, who were trained separately and brutally going into World War II. And now the Marine Corps is finally, acknowledging and honoring. So I think the Morehouse NROTC unit, AUC, we're part of that legacy as well. We've established an alumni association as part of the unit. Right now we're calling it the Veterans and Military Affinities Group, right? And what it does, it links, old heads like myself and Antonio Smith from the mid and early 80s with the existing midshipmen. So we are, trying to live that legacy of making sure that the younger generation understands, what has happened in the past, and that they have that background to fall onto.
Yeah, because it makes us proud to come in. It makes me proud to see them because they followed us. So yes, and I don't want to stop you, but it does. It makes me proud.
I think we would probably be remiss if we didn't say there's history in the making. We know that there's probably some student coming through now that will be, but we have our first 4-star that will be promoted on November 7th of 2024 that came out of this unit. And so in spaces and places where they would say, oh, y'all don't produce that. We do, I'm sorry, Alvin Holsey. Will be promoted, and his son is on active duty, and so there's just a legacy of history and tradition. I'm from Macon. He came from Fort Valley. He came out of the Valley. Let's talk about it from Georgia. I mean, you can't imagine from Fort Valley and Macon, we landlocked. There's no water. There's no sea. There's no ocean. Well, you know, the idea that we would be naval officers, who ever heard of such, right? And so tremendous. And so to see what will happen with the ones in the 20s, the youngsters from the 20s, how they will excel and exceed even beyond what we could think or imagine is amazing.
Thank you all for this wonderful conversation, this historical legacy. Like I said, this is history in the making here as well, and leaving a legacy for the midshipmen to come. So all out there, Morehouse NROTC unit, stand the test and join the best. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Awesome.
All right, y'all got me doing my